All right, good evening, everyone. Welcome to the Anacortes City Council meeting of October 27th, 2025. I'd like to call the meeting to order. Mr. Franciac, take the roll, please.
Mr. Fantini.
Here.
Mr. Young.
Present.
Mr. Walters.
Here.
Ms. Cleveland McGrath.
Here.
Ms. Moulton.
Here.
Mr. McDougall.
Here.
Ms. Hubick.
Here.
Thank you.
Okay, the City Council will now enter into a closed session pursuant to RCW 4230-1404B regarding collective bargaining topics. This closed session is expected to last 30 minutes. No action will be taken. Upon completion of the closed session, council will return to the open meeting and resume our regular agenda. The city council will remain in closed session for an additional 10 minutes. We anticipate returning at 6:40. All right, council is going to remain in closed session for an additional 10 minutes. We'll try to get back here at 6:50. All right, I'd like to call the regular city council meeting back to order. No action was taken during the closed session. And would you please join me in the Pledge of Allegiance?
I, United States of America, and the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right, thanks for everybody's patience, and we'll start off with announcements and committee reports. 4A, the Fiber Committee. Anybody? Okay. Yep, we'll make sure that everybody can hear. I know we've got some issues with the speakers.
Mayor Miller.
Mr. Walters.
Fiber Committee met last week. It was just myself who was able to attend. Couple of notes for all council to be aware of. First of all, Summit X is expected to resume work on their backbone construction sometime in November. They
Yeah.
How about now? I don't know if that's better. All right, let's try this again. So Fiber Committee met last week. It was just me who was able to attend. A couple of notes. First of all, Summit X, who is our contractor on backbone construction for the EDA area, is expected to resume their work sometime in November. They have until April to complete that work, but they will probably finish in January or somewhere else in Q1. One of the remaining areas is the area between sort of the pool and Creekside. They're next working on the area near M Avenue, then the areas east of Commercial and R, and then the Capsana area. We expect that the invoices for that work will be received in 2026. So some of that expense in the budget has shifted forward into 2026 out of 2025. The install calendar, however, is full up until mid-January. So we have a list of installs queued up that will keep us busy for a number of months still. And then we expect that that'll continue as more areas come online and more people order up service. Staff is also working on an interlocal agreement with the Samish Nation to provide fiber internet service along Fidalgo Bay Road. Samish has received a grant. So I may have some of these details incorrect, which is the danger of doing this reporting. But they have received a grant. They are going to do some of this work. It will be mostly aerial. We will then be able to piggyback as a result of the interlocal on their build and serve customers along the way, but we won't incur the cost of building it out. So we talked a little bit about that. And then this afternoon, I got a tour of the network room at the library where fiber comes into the building and then goes out of the building via our OLT to everybody's ONT that they have at home. And that was very interesting. And wire management is really good at that location. It's very easy to see where all the pieces come together there. And we had some expert description of how all of that works from our retiring fiber manager, Jim, and also our network manager. Thank you.
Questions for Fiber Committee? All right, I guess I could have stalled. I had announcements that I forgot. A couple of quick announcements. Skagit County hosting a public hearing on the 0.1% public sales tax. This is a proposed tax for public safety programs, and this is going to be on Tuesday. That's tomorrow, the 28th at 3:30 in the Commissioner's Hearing Room and online via Zoom. And information can be found on the Skagit County website. Downtown Trick or Treat is this Friday, October 31st. That is Halloween from 4 to 6 p.m. Commercial Avenue from 10th to 3rd Street. So please pay attention if you're not participating. And then Daylight Savings is this Sunday, November 2nd. So remember to fall back. All right. On with the other committee reports. 4B, Finance Committee.
Mayor Miller.
Ms. Moulton.
Thank you. The Finance Committee met last Thursday, and it was council members Cleland McGrath, myself, Finance Director Steve Hoagland and Finance Manager Rhonda Peck. And we talked about the budget, which we will delve into in detail this evening.
Okay. Any questions for finance? All right, planning committee.
Mayor Miller.
Ms. Chloe McGrath.
We had our planning meeting today at 5 p.m. with Councilmember Walters, Councilmember Moulton, myself, and a couple of folks from planning. We talked a little bit about the cold weather shelter that we are partnering with the Salvation Army on. It is a HACS issue, but we also know that it's getting cold and getting close to November, so we want to make sure that that contract is moving forward. So what it will do is committing $12,000 total for possibly, well, ideally for the winter 2025 season and the winter 2026 season. Based on past years, that seemed like a reasonable amount for 2 years. We will monitor that though, because we never know. But we're pleased that we can partner with Salvation Army and they will use that towards a motel voucher program. The other thing we talked about was good news. The Planning Commission approved the comprehensive plan to move forward to council. So that's very exciting. Thank you. Sorry, development regulations, not. Yes. So thank you for all of that work. And that is all.
Questions for planning committee? Any other announcements or committee reports that I may have forgotten?
Mayor Miller.
Mr. Fantini.
I just wanted to give a special shout out. So we have a lot of traditions here in Anacortes, and some of them have gone by the wayside from COVID and whatnot. But this past weekend, special shout out to Council Member Cleland McGrath, who brought back the Halloween Carnival at Fidalgo Elementary School that I was very excited to attend. And it's just exciting because I remember going, Mr. Walters, Ms. Cleo McGrath, I'm sure you all went as kids as well. And it's fun that that's back for a new generation of kids. So thank you for that.
Ms.
Mayor,
McGrath.
Thank you. And I want to say a big thank you to Council Member Fantini for emceeing the entire event. And then also a shout out because we had Officer Lindquist and then Chief Harris be willing to participate in mummy wrap. So we have wonderful photos and the kids loved it. And it was just a really fun time. We did art and it was nice to have it come back. So thank you. And thanks for all your help.
All right.
Mayor-
Yeah, Ms. Moulton.
Oh, just another Halloween tradition that I think is in its 6th year is the Haunted Forest at Washington Park, which was a complete blast. And I was one of the gatekeepers with Senior Center Director Carl Wolfswinkel. And we had police staff and park staff and city staff and basketball players, terrifying, young and old. And it was just so much fun to be scared in that really fun way. So it was great.
Yeah, thank you for acknowledging that because that's a very popular event and a lot of work goes into that and a lot of people were scared. All right, any other announcements or committee reports? Okay, I'm going to go on to item 4D. This is the mayor's budget message. I've been told that, well, I'm from the East Coast and I grew up with 2 older brothers and 2 younger sisters, and I tend to speak quickly. But I will read the budget message by tradition. Council, you should be receiving this via email. If you need a hard copy, I have some of those. Anybody need hard copies? Here, I'll just give it down and you can take some and pass it out. And I'd like to thank all of the very hardworking public servants, all the directors, department heads, the city of Anacortes are all in the back here. So without further ado, I will go with the budget message. So in accordance with RCW 35A.33.050, I'm presenting my proposed $1,114.8 million balanced 2026 City of Anacortes budget. As we prepare this year's budget, we face a stark financial reality that must make painful but necessary decisions to ensure our city's long-term stability and resilience. Inflation and declining revenue streams have created one of the most difficult budgets we've faced, requiring significant reductions and structural changes. This budget reflects substantial efforts to close a $9 million budget gap. The proposal both increases revenues, taxes, and significantly cuts expenses, including staff, to present a balanced budget. Despite extensive cost-saving measures, layoffs are necessary. The proposed budget removes 8.9 full-time equivalent positions of the 246 employees across multiple departments, affecting 13 individuals. This is not a decision we make lightly. Our employees are the city. They deliver every service and embody the commitment to our residents. We deeply value their dedication and professionalism and will work to support effective staff through this transition. The last time the city of Anacortes had to lay off employees was during the 2008 economic downturn. I know these reductions have real impacts on people, on families, on livelihoods, and on the teams that they have served together with for years. These are not decisions made from a distance. They come after long discussions and hard reflection. We move forward with empathy and the resolve to rebuild a more sustainable path for everyone who calls Anacortes home. This budget reflects our community's priorities and values. It captures the essential services that only the government closest to the people can provide: public safety, clean water, emergency response, safe streets, parks, and facilities. These services are the foundation to make Anacortes a vibrant and connected community. But like many cities across Washington, we are confronted with sustained financial pressures. The cost of providing these services continue to rise, while revenues have remained flat or even declined. For perspective, and to better understand what led to these challenges, wages and benefit costs have risen by more than 20% over the past 4 years. Construction costs have increased nearly 50% during the same period. Sales tax revenue has been flat or declining. As our city has grown, our staff and service demands have also grown. While our reserves are stable, our cash balances are no longer sufficient to buy us out of this shortfall. And ultimately, city revenues would need to grow by roughly 8% each year to maintain current service levels, growth we have not experienced. Our expenses cannot continue to exceed our revenues. Addressing the shortfall. In developing this budget, we work to minimize impact on essential public-facing services, but we have reached the limits of what can be achieved through efficiencies alone. The budget includes a mix of reductions, reallocations, and targeted revenue increases, including eliminating certain equipment and information system repair and replacement charges in the general fund, reducing training and travel budgets to focus on required certifications only, reducing city fund for certain nonprofit partnerships, including Community Action of Skagit County and the Anacortes Downtown Alliance, reallocating $250,000 from the Library Reserve Fund to the general fund, deferring many capital projects to maintain cash flow, allocating opioid settlement funds to support Anacortes Family Center social worker, school resource officer, preventive programming through parks, library, and museum, police canine expenses, and range training agreements. Removing staff costs by eliminating 2025 budgeted but unfilled positions and the 8.9 FTEs in the 2026 budget. Adopting a 1% property tax increase and a 2% utility tax increase for water, wastewater, and stormwater, and rate adjustments for both stormwater and sewer utilities requiring council adoption. These reductions will inevitably lead to some changes in how we deliver services. While essential operations such as police, fire, and emergency responses are not impacted, other departments may experience reduced hours, scaled back programs, and longer waiting times in certain areas. The budget is a comprehensive effort to preserve public safety, core infrastructure, and community access while positioning Anacortes for a more stable financial future. Every department has participated in this effort, identifying ways to adjust operations, defer expenses, and focus on the services that only local government can provide. The following summaries highlight key adjustments and priorities by department. The executive departmental overview. The executive budget remains largely unchanged to ensure continuity and stability during the transition to a new incoming mayor. The legislative budget is reduced to reflect lower county voter registration fees, and in even number years where fewer local elections occur. A-Town is Our Town remains in the budget in a condensed electronic only version. The finance department is focusing budget priority on the 2-year implementation of a new enterprise-wide business management system that will modernize financial, payroll, and operational systems across all departments. Human Resources is currently negotiating with 3 of our 4 bargaining units. The Anacortes Commission Police Guild collective bargaining agreement, which expired December 31st, 2024, is expected to move into interest arbitration. Collective bargaining is underway with Teamsters Local 231 and IAFF Local 1537. The impacted bargaining units have been notified of the layoffs, and we are committed to sharing financial data, which has led to staffing reductions across departments. Civil service promotional assessments for public safety are included in the budget. Administrative services. In the IT division, replacement costs have been removed from the general fund allocations, and equipment replacement schedules extend to reflect longer life cycles. The city will enter a new agreement with Microsoft 2026 and continue to prioritize cybersecurity and end-user security training. Access Anacortes fiber internet construction is nearing completion. The fiber division is projected to begin contributing to the general fund in 2027. In the court division, the state's new case management system in 2026 may further impact local court operations, and caseloads continue to be monitored. Contracted public defense service continue to ensure compliance with Washington Supreme Court caseload limits. Legal. In-house prosecutor funding was removed from the 2026 budget and continues contracted prosecution advisory services for the police department. Planning, community, and economic development. In 2026, 20% of the community economic development block grant allocations will be withheld to offset community project costs for projects including the Salvation Army Cold Weather Shelter Program. The city is reducing the financial support for Downtown Alliance and community action programs. The creosote pilings replacement project will move forward using existing fund balance in compliance with Department of Natural Resources lease agreement. The city plans to fund the community event facility project in a partnership with the Port of Anacortes through a general obligation bond supported by lodging tax revenues, which are restricted to tourism-related activities and grants. This funding approach does not draw from the city's general fund. The project's estimated cost is $8 million, with $6 million expected to be bonded. The resulting economic activity, including lodging and sales tax revenue, will help strengthen the long-term fiscal stability without requiring new taxes. Parks and Recreation. The majority of the parks projects are funded through grants, impact fees, and external contributions rather than real estate excise tax funds, which allows us to continue moving forward with improvements to the Depot Maritime Plaza, skate park parking lot, West Side Park, Arc Lake parking lot, and the Senior Activity Center classrooms. The library has built a healthy reserve through careful stewardship to address current shortfalls. The normal $250,000 in property tax is reallocated from the library reserve fund to the general fund. The library budget is significantly reduced. Anacortes is unique among cities of its size in operating a municipal museum. In 2026, the museum budget is significantly reduced. Public safety. Voter-approved Proposition 1 continues to fund established police and fire staffing levels. The Anacortes School District will no longer fund the school resource officer position. This budget shifts that cost to APD, which in 2026 will be offset in part by opioid settlement funds. Fire. The fire department received a SAFER grant that covers 75% of wages and benefit costs for 3 new firefighter paramedic positions. The remaining new staffing costs will be offset by eliminating 1 assistant chief position and Skagit County EMS revenue. These positions will be filled in mid-2026. Public Works manages essential services, including streets, water, wastewater, stormwater, and solid waste, fleet, and facilities. Most of these services are enterprise funds, meaning funded by rates. The facilities assessment completed in 2025 will guide maintenance and capital planning. Transportation funding is reduced with $1.5 million in REIT allocated for transportation, sidewalks, and ADA improvements. $3.5 million South Commercial Avenue repaving project will need to be phased, delaying completion, dependent on additional funding opportunities, as we are spending local funds to improve this portion of a state highway where the state has failed to do so. In conclusion, in the coming week, city staff will work collaboratively with the city council, labor partners, and the public to refine and adopt this budget. 3 city council work sessions are scheduled starting tonight, and public comments are encouraged throughout the budget process until the public hearing is closed. The pursuit of long-term fiscal stability remains our shared responsibility. The impact will be felt by the community and individual city employees through difficult decisions, disciplined priority setting, and continued focus on essential services. This budget positions Anacortes to weather current challenges and continue providing the core services and community connections. Together, we must build budgets that reflect our community values while being fiscally sustainable now and into the future. All right, so with that done, I will move on to item 5, which is public comment. Didn't have anybody signed up for public comment, but anyone want to comment on a thing that's not on the agenda tonight? And checking online. Okay, on to our consent agenda, council 6A through D.
Mayor Miller,
Ms. Moulton.
I would like to pull item 6D from the consent agenda, please, and move to approve item 6A through C.
Second. Okay, a motion by Ms. Moulton and a second by Mr. McDougall to approve items 6A, B, and C. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. All right, Ms. Moulton, item 6D.
Thank you. So I have questions related to this agenda item. So the contract is for a fixed price of $30,000 on an annual basis. And what I am lacking is the knowledge of how much are we currently funding that position at and from what account?
Yeah, thank you, Chief Floyd. Mr. Williams, discuss this one.
I want to make sure I understood Ms. Moulton's question because I only caught part of it in the back of the room, but I believe it was to know what the amount currently is. Is that correct?
Yes, the current amount and how we're currently funding it.
So our current agreement with the Family Center is for 60,000, and that is funded through the professional services line item in the police department budget, general revenues.
Sorry, what was the last part of what you said?
General revenues.
Okay. So that would have been helpful to know right off the bat. And so now we're proposing to fund that still through the general fund, or is this the one that's opioid funds?
Yeah, I'll let Mr. Hoagland speak to that, but we're currently proposing to fund that with opioid settlement funds.
Okay, well, I think that this is super important. We're cutting it. We haven't had a chance to discuss this at all. And I think with the opioid funds, we have a lot of demands on those right now. And I would suggest that we have a work session with those and what exactly we want to spend them on, because I see what's in the mayor's budget message, but I don't necessarily agree with, we haven't talked about it, basically. I think that's ripe for discussion in a committee of the whole type situation. I don't want to hold this up either, but I just think it's really important to know where we started, where we're going, and where the money's coming from. And I would be glad to hear what other council members think of this.
Mayor Miller.
Mr. Valentini.
So I agree that this would be a great conversation. I think Councilmember Cleveland McGrath mentioned it at our previous meeting as well. So I think there's 3 of us here that would like to do that. Is there time enough for us to fit that in and then revisit this?
Yeah, as far as the term of the contract, when it expires, I can't remember. We want to keep providing the service. So.
Our current contract with the Family Center expires at the end of this year.
Okay.
So we're looking to try to renew a contract for the 2026 calendar year.
Mayor Miller.
Mr. Walters.
I don't see the point of having a work session on a $30,000 contract if that's what's being suggested. However, I would see a lot of benefit in talking holistically about all the opioid settlement funds at once and the requirements for those, which I imagine that we'll be doing through the budget process. So I would suggest that we not schedule anything new and that we just launch into the budget process and defer this until after the budget process is done. Because we'll have that done before the end of the year. The contract will expire at the end of the year, so we'll have time.
Any objection, council, to essentially table the contract.
Mayor Miller,
Mr.
no objection to that. I just want to make sure the budget is a big discussion
Mhm.
and this seems like a real
Mhm.
important piece of it. So I just want to make sure we definitely address this as a section.
Mayor Miller.
Ms. Cleland McGrath.
Yeah, I appreciate it being pulled out from the consent agenda. I think that we have been very careful to not commit any of our opioid funds yet. We've had a lot of requests and that needs to be a full discussion at council about how we are going to strategically spend those funds in the current economic climate. So while I'm supportive of the family center and continuing our agreement with them, I do think that it's putting the cart before the horse for us to approve it right now.
Mayor Miller,
Ms. Hubick.
just to make an addendum to that, it would be really nice, and I apologize to staff for asking for more work, but since we've got our paper budget books, it'd be nice to have an added section specifically for opioid funding to have everything centralized in one place. Don't want to give anybody any instructions on what to make the Excel look like, but if we're looking at everything in one place, it'd be great to have something broken out specifically for the opioid funding over the next several years.
And just to be clear, we definitely want to have that opioid funding discussion, but the reality is it's all general fund. This is all general fund money. But, all right. Okay, so we'll table that one and thank you. On to item 7. First item is 7A, an interlocal agreement with Skagit County for vessel registration fees. This is a discussion item with possible action, and Chief Floyd is already there at the dais. Whenever you're ready, Chief.
Thank you, Mayor Miller. So tonight I have before you an agreement with Skagit County for a share of the vessel registration funds. So for some background, our Marine Patrol program and boating safety efforts are funded through grants by the state. And we received $14,000 this year, plus a one-time $10,000 bonus from the state parks to fund our boating safety program. Along with that, our vessel registration funds that are available, collected by the state. When you register a vessel, there is a surcharge on your registration that goes into an account, and those funds are dispersed by county with active boating safety programs. And then if there's a city within that county that has a boating safety program, the county then carves off a portion of their vessel registration funds to that city for furtherance of boating safety programs within the city. In speaking with Skagit County, historically, when we had our previous boating safety program, the allocation to the city was 30% of the county funds that they took in. That number made sense currently, and so that is the proposal before you. The state of our current vessel, our boating safety program is out active. We have had a few days prior to the end of the boating season to get our trained officers out on the water and familiarize them with the new platform. And we have several individuals slated for training early in next year to continue expanding that program and being able to provide a legitimate boating safety option for our citizens here. These activities are all funded through the state parks grant funding as well as the vessel registrations. We anticipate next year receiving in the neighborhood of $15,000 from the state parks grant funding, and our take of the vessel registration funds from the county would equate to an additional $15,000 for a total of about $30,000 dedicated to our boating safety program. And I believe I've explained to you before, but as a reminder, those funds are restricted only to be used in the furtherance of boating safety programs. So anything that is related to that, whether it be maintenance, operations, fuel costs, training of boat handlers, overtime costs, those are all allowable expenses under the current agreement with the State Parks Department. So with that, I would ask you to approve this interlocal agreement with Skagit County to bring in some additional funding to support this program.
Yeah, and I think for the public that may have not been totally into this, this is a mechanism that sets up the ability for the vehicle registration fees to come our way. It's a income in. Council, questions for the chief?
Mayor Miller?
Mr. Walters?
$30,000 annually, which cannot be used to supplant existing revenue, doesn't really strike me as a lot of additional money. And it is for a program that I think a lot of us were not particularly sold on to begin with. So I have a concern here that we're expanding into another area that is not fully funded. There are a lot of requirements in WAC 352-65-040 for the boating program for a local government to legitimately make use of and receive these funds. And I think that our population expects to have police on the street and not necessarily police on the water. So I am pretty uncertain about this at this point, and I'm not ready to approve this.
All right, other questions? Well, that's one council member. Anybody else agree, disagree? Oh, Mr. Young, did you have your hand up? Sorry.
Thank you, Mayor Miller. Actually, I didn't, but since you presented the opportunity, I really appreciate it. I'm agreeing with Councilman Walters on this one for the moment, although I would ordinarily approve it. I just think where we are right now, particularly after the mayor's budget speech, I just think that, I want to move a little bit more cautiously at the moment. And so I'm agreeing with Mr. Walters at this point.
Mayor Miller,
Mr. Fantini?
I just have a couple questions. So this $30,000, like, is this something we're gonna get every year? Like it's pretty much gonna go every year? And I guess my other question would be, I share some of the same concerns, but also I'm curious to know, like, what do you anticipate the costs actually being, like, going forward? Do you know what I mean? Like, is 30,000 going to be enough for us to sustain this, or what are you thinking around that?
So the answer to your first question is yes, this is reoccurring funding that we would be requesting annually. And the agreement with Skagit County would be for our share of those vessel registration funds paid annually. The first of the would be paid annually towards the end of the year, because those are dispersed from the state. And yes, so the state sends the funds to the county in November, and then as soon as possible, they would be forwarding our share of those to the city. So that is projected to be a sustainable source of funding the State Parks Department has been fairly stable amongst many government agencies, and in talking with their coordinator, they don't predict any dramatic changes in the the funds for boating education and safety programs. So we expect that those will be continuing as they have been.
So we think it's enough, this would be enough to cover what you need to run, because we've already bought the boat, right?
Correct. And that was a significant expense for our first year in the program. We were able to complete a number of those requirements that are listed in the WAC prior to actually taking possession of a vessel. And as we will have that for a full year next year, we should have no issue meeting the requirements as set forth in the WAC. In our previous marine safety program, we met those metrics consistently.
Okay, and my last question is, if we don't accept this grant funding, can we just not use the boat? Like, is the boat just going to sit there, or like, is there still costs that we would have to account for in order to use the boat?
There are some costs that we would have to account for, but this enables us to take that boat out and target times where there's going to be high amounts of vessel traffic, and target our patrols where safety is most needed with the volume of boaters present on the water. So it'll be strategically planned on those peak boating weeks of the year. And the state parks funding is not the sole source of revenue that we can use to support that program. There's also the ability to use that for our current program that we're participating in for interdiction patrols, looking for cross-border smuggling. That also occurs on the water in addition to the current land patrols that we're doing now. That is not uncommon for agencies to use both of those revenue streams simultaneously. I know it's done in Island County currently, and there's been no issues there with that. So the grant cycle for that federal program is obviously on hold with the current state of the federal government. When that resumes, our request has already been submitted and will being processed for the next grant cycle in that program. We've requested some fuel and maintenance costs for the vessel if it's used in the furtherance of those interdiction programs. So the state parks funding, while is probably the greatest part of our funding for a boating safety program, it is not the sole source of funding.
Mayor Miller.
Ms. Moulton.
Thank you. So Chief, we've talked every year about the importance of having an officer in the community forest lands. And some years we've been able to do that. And other years, like this summer, we have not had that resource. And we've talked at council multiple times about how vital that is, especially with wildfire danger and other things that could happen there right here at home in our town that could affect our entire community and our island. So I would hope, and I would love some kind of a guarantee that we are going to have that school resource officer or someone out in the forest lands in the summertime, rather than out on the water looking for drug smugglers. I would just say that that is a priority of mine, and we keep not doing that. And I would hate to see this boating program supplant an officer in the forest lands in the summertime.
So as you'll probably recall, we did have Officer Kellington assigned to the forest lands in 2024. He was not assigned there this year due to the number of new officers we had going through the field training process. And as we discussed just a short bit earlier, most of those officers are finishing their field training process in the final phase and are being added to our schedule currently. So our staffing is significantly better this year than it has been in any recent years. And barring any dramatic changes, I do not see an issue putting Officer Kellington in the forest lands for 2026.
I am very glad to hear that.
All right. So I think I've heard from at least a majority of council that they're interested in some more information And I think what I've certainly heard from the chief is this is not a patrol boat. This is a response boat. And I know you can correct me if I'm wrong. It's a lot different than patrolling the forest lands than you having a boat to be able to respond to the water for various events.
So yeah, we do see multiple requests come for not only assistance, but there are a number of programs that the state parks boating safety encourages. One of those would be looking for impaired vessel captains on the water, as we see frequently. Boating has a little bit different connotation to some folks than driving, while the effects of operating that while under the influence is I would say equally or possibly even more dangerous, because we know that the Puget Sound is very unforgiving, and when emergencies happen on the water, there's a less availability for assistance for those folks that are in trouble. And so I think it's important that we address the potential for impaired vessel operators, in addition to requests for assistance for other emergencies, drug interdiction, all of the above, I think have some priority as far as our community safety goes.
So again, what I hear the concerns from the council is that it takes away from patrol. And also, what I want to make sure that I'm understanding is this interlocal opens up the vehicle registration fees that can only be used for this law enforcement type
And
boat.
as I mentioned at the beginning of this, acceptable costs for those grant funds, as well as the vessel registration funds, are operating that with overtime dollars under this program. So our monies there can be spent to put officers out on the water while not taking anything away from the general fund.
Mayor Miller.
Mr. Walters.
To summarize, I think what I would be looking for to further my understanding of what we're talking about is a summary of what we propose for this boating safety program and a comparison to the requirements under the WAC, because the WAC does specify that the local jurisdiction must provide a patrol schedule that ensures such officers patrol the waterways during peak recreational boating periods. Obviously, that's pretty wide open. You could interpret it in a narrower sense or a wider sense, but I want to know what the police department envisions, and going through each of the criteria for the requirements under the WAC for the boating safety program, because I think that especially given the fact that we are not yet at full staffing with everybody actually on the land from our Prop 1 public safety levy, and given that we are going to be assumedly cutting programs or hours of operation, or what we're going to be cutting some level of service as a result of staff reductions in this budget, I'm not very excited about adding programs right now. If they are fully funded, that's different. If they are low impact, that's different. But I need to see that description and in a comparison with each of the items of the 10 or the, I guess, 9 multi-pronged items in the WAC for the boating program. And because I need to feel good about the whole program, not just this interlocal.
So as part of the grant application process, they ask for a projected schedule, but more importantly, what they focus on is the target number of hours based on agency size. And so that is the metric that we're most closely working towards, is meeting those targets for small agency size. And I think that with the funds that we anticipate receiving, that should not be too tall of an order for us to achieve.
So this was a discussion item with possible action. Council can, again, I hear the majority of council is not interested in moving forward with this interlocal at this time. But if you want to take action on it, I'm open to a motion, or we can come back in the future with a little more information. Okay, all right. I see future rather than somebody wants to make a motion to vote down or vote up the interlocal. Okay. Thank you for the discussion, and we'll move on to another item for Chief Floyd. This is 7B. This is an interlocal amendment 2 with the Anacortes School District 103 for the School Resource Officer Program. This is also a discussion item with possible action.
Thank you, Mayor Miller. So members of the Public Safety Committee will remember earlier this year when I brought to you concerns that the school district had about their current state of financial outlook, and they had a lot of concern about being able to continue funding the school resource officer program. Former Superintendent Dr. Irish asked if we would consider leaving Officer Kellington there half of the amount of hours that he currently is, so roughly 20 hours a week, considering the fact that the school would have no money to contribute towards their half of his position. In discussion with the school district and the council members that are on the Public Safety Committee, it became very apparent the high priority that our school safety is and remains even through these budget challenges. And the sentiment was looking for a way to continue funding this position because of the benefit that we have received from having an officer in the schools. As I've shared with multiple members of council and public, I find that many of our students fall into one of three categories. There's the student that has no other contact with the police other than the school resource officer program. And so having that interaction, having the familiarity and them feeling safe engaging with an officer would not occur without this interaction that they have in the schools currently. There is the individuals that we know very well and that are going down a bad path in life, that our school officer has the ability to interact with and help redirect in a positive direction, and hopefully avoid being involved in the juvenile justice system, and redirecting that individual towards positive activities can change their trajectory dramatically. And the third category of student that we'll commonly see is the student that maybe doesn't have a fantastic home life, and the only time that they ever see the police is when the police show up to their house to interject in something that has gone wrong in their home life. And so being able to have contact with that student in a positive light opens up a lot of opportunity for engagement and dialogue, and hopefully leaves them with the impression going forward that, this interaction can be a positive, and it doesn't always have to be something that has gone poorly in their life for an officer to be speaking with them. And so, excuse me, in light of that, we felt the need to try to continue funding the school's part of this, if possible, for the 25-26 school year, because of the officer presence, being able to prevent larger issues before they occur. I know that Officer Kellington has on numerous occasions been alerted to security concerns or large parties that are going to occur, and we've been able to take steps proactively to prevent those things before they happen and increase the level of safety at our schools. I've also spoken with a number of school staff that are sharing with me their experiences, how the officer presence has a positive impact on the school atmosphere from a staff perspective. And so they are also encouraging us to find alternative ways to fund this because general fund dollars are tight. We're well aware of some of the budget challenges ahead. The suggestion is to use opioid settlement funds to fund the school's part of this for this school year only, allowing us time for the school district to hopefully be in a better financial position going forward in subsequent years and be able to fund their half of this program. But restarting a program that you've had to stop is much more difficult than continuing it and keeping the momentum that we've built since Officer Dotzauer started in this position in 2013. So with that, I would ask for your consideration to continue our agreement with the school district, asking the city to pay the school's half of that position for this school year only. And then at the close of the school year, we'll be reassessing what the district's ability to once again re-engage in their half of that position and the funding for it.
Mayor Miller.
Mr. Walters.
I think a whole lot of people find this position to be pretty valuable. And we received a number of public comments just for this item tonight. I think I am definitely supportive of making sure that we have the SRO in the schools next year. I think the position makes a lot of sense as a shared expense between the school district and the city. Right now, we're not being asked to decide the opioid settlement question. Those funding decisions will be made through the budget. What we're deciding now is whether we're retaining the position, and I'm supportive of retaining the position. But I do think that the message needs to be sent really clearly to the school district and the community that the fundamentals that are underpinning the revenue challenges that we have this year are not going to be better next year. So, I mean, we'll talk more about that in the context of the budget, but we will not be able to continue this indefinitely. And we will need to find alternative revenue sources, I think, to pay for this in succeeding years. Hopefully the school district will be able to resume our prior arrangement. But I'm in favor of moving this forward at this point.
Mayor Miller.
Ms. Chloe McGrath.
So this is one of those, the agenda bill. I'm a little confused. It says the funding source is unspent Prop 1 resources. I have heard at a committee level that it is going to be opioid funds for 2026. I guess to me, that's one of those things where I want to be really clear. I don't want to kind of open up the can of worms that we're starting to commit opioid funds before we need to. Granted, though, I understand why this makes sense to move forward because we are already a few months into the school year and we need to make sure that it continues to be funded. But if you can speak to that.
Certainly, I guess I would suggest that was the use of the opioid money was in the broader conversation of how to balance the budget that we were looking at. We had a significant gap, as I think you are all aware. So that was one of the items that we recognized that was eligible for use of the opioid money, and considering the position that the school district was in. So none of that obviously has been committed. Now we don't have that authority to spend that money. As we go through that budget process, that'll be fleshed out. But Chief Floyd was, I think, recognizing that he had open positions during the year, so he had unspent proceeds, left in his budget. So either way, they're
Yeah, he could have gone with just general funded in that line, but I think you were trying to think about the next step of, well, where's that money going to come from? And you went with unspent, Prop 1, because we haven't spent that on a fully Prop 1 staff force. Go ahead if you had more.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Well, so to finish that, thank you. and I would just say that I'm in support of this. I think this is a really important program and partnership. I would agree that we need to figure out a way that if it's not 50-50 with the district, if there is a more appropriate way, since we're utilizing that officer in the summertime for 3 months out of the year and not in the district, maybe that's some way we can find some middle ground. But from my discussions with you, with other school officials, and then some of the public comments we've received, I think this is an incredibly important program that also saves us money in the long run and saves a lot of people's lives and makes it just a much smoother experience for all of our citizens. So I am in favor of moving forward with this.
And
Mayor.
Mr. Young and then Mr. Fantini.
Thank you, Mayor Miller. I'm also in favor of moving it forward. However, I do think it's important to recognize that we're all are in the middle of a punch. At the end of the day, we're $9 million short. The school district is no different in their approach to budgeting and trying to figure out what programs, what things can be modified. So, again, it's not a tremendous amount of money. And I agree, it is a program that we want to invest in for all of the wonderful reasons. But I do think it's important that the school district itself has to take a hard look at where it is, just like we're going to do to try to find the $9 million. So, and that's even before the additional costs associated with employees, benefits, and any other stuff that may be coming down the pipeline. But I just felt that I needed to say that, because even though we think it's a wonderful thing and we all agree that we want it to continue because it does do a great job, we're still $9 million short. And I think it's just important that all of us, including all of the stakeholders in Anacortes, keep that in mind. Thank you.
Yeah, Mr. Young, I just need to correct you on the $9 million short piece. The budget that transmitted to council this evening is a balanced budget that is not $9 million short. But so that's a balanced budget. And I know council, I do want council to have that conversation about where some of this money is going to come from, because there's some opportunities there. But by law, I had to present a balanced budget. I have 3 more days, I think, to do that, but it's Monday night, and so we've closed that gap, and there'll be a lot more discussion on that. But Mr. Fantini, you were next.
Thank you. I'm very supportive of this, and I do agree that, the school district, it would be great if they could take a look and find the money in future years. I'm not confident that that's going to necessarily happen, despite a lot of great intentions. But even to that point, should this, I would say, I know we're only voting on this year, but I do feel this is important enough of a position that even should this come to us with a gap in future years, I think there's a lot of cost benefit and savings that we have as a city by having that school officer potentially cut off a lot of other problems and help set kids on the right direction. So I'm supportive of this now. I'm also supportive of this in the future.
Mayor Miller.
Ms. Moulton.
Thank you. So the one thing I'm not seeing, I also am supportive of this, is the amount, but I believe that the total cost is it $160,000 and the city's been paying 80. And now, just so we know, it'll be 160 total. Is that right?
So that is a rough estimate of the salary and benefits, and that doesn't include whatever contractual increase may occur for the police officers union. So I would defer to finance on the exact number, but that we're projecting
Sure.
should that contract be ratified.
Okay, great. Thanks.
Okay, council, Ms. Hubick.
Hi, thank you. I move that City Council authorize the mayor to execute amendment number 2 to interlocal cooperative agreement IL 265 between the city of Anacortes and the Anacortes School District 103.
Second.
A motion by Ms. Hubick and a second by Mr. McDougall to approve the interlocal as presented. Any additional discussion? Mr. Franczak, vote please.
Mr. Young.
Yes.
We didn't hear that vote, Mr. Young.
Yes.
Okay, I see a yes.
Mr. Walters,
Yes.
Ms. Cleland McGrath.
Yes.
Ms. Moulton,
Yes.
Mr. McDougall,
Yes.
Ms. Hubick.
Yes.
Mr. Fantini.
Yes.
Motion carries.
Okay, thank you. On to item 7C, interlocal agreement with Washington Traffic Safety Commission for traffic safety grant. This is a discussion item with possible action. Chief Lloyd.
Yes, thank you, Mayor Miller. And so for my last and final item on the agenda tonight, I have before you an agreement with the Washington State Traffic Safety Commission. So as you're probably aware, this is the grant funding program that funds our emphasis patrols to increase traffic safety. They schedule these numerous times throughout the year. There's a total of $90,000 to divide it up between other agencies in our region, which would include Whatcom, Skagit, and Snohomish counties. These include traffic safety emphasis patrols for DUIs, crosswalk, pedestrian safety, bicycle safety, distracted driving. So there is a number of different types of traffic safety that they're targeting throughout the year. We've also received some support for traffic safety emphasis that are motorcycle centric during the second half of September, right around Oyster Run time. So we receive a significant benefit from this grant program. And this allows our officers to participate in these events where the Traffic Safety Commission reimburses any overtime costs that are incurred from our participation. So I would ask you to vote to approve our continued participation in this program.
All right, council, questions for the chief?
Mayor Miller,
Mr. McDougall.
unless there's no questions, I move council authorize the mayor to execute interlocal cooperative agreement 25270 APD 001 between the city of Anacortes and Washington Traffic Safety Commission.
Second.
Second.
Motion by Mr. McDougall, a second by Ms. Hubick. Any additional discussion? Mr. Francis, vote please.
Mr. Walters.
Yes.
Ms. Cleland McGrath.
Yes.
Ms. Moulton.
Yes.
Mr. McDougall.
Yes.
Ms. Hubick.
Yes.
Mr. Fantini.
Yes.
Mr. Young.
Yes.
Motion carries.
Okay, on to item 7D. This is a contract modification, South Commercial Avenue Corridor Phase 2. This is the 13th to 34th Streets. This is design, and this is a discussion item with possible action. Mr. Rayum, ready to get you warmed up for later.
Yeah, I'm
Whenever
ready
you're
to go.
ready.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. Before you is a contract amendment in the amount of $133,465 for Osborne Consulting Incorporated to design and document the addition of crosswalk push buttons, junction boxes, and rewiring of the South Commercial Avenue project from 13th to 34th. This includes the intersections of 17th, 22nd, and 32nd. WashDOT is Washington State Department of Transportation added replacement of the crosswalk system at all intersections. This is a American with Disabilities Act requirement. This design responding to WashDOT's review and adding the design to all the documents required for WashDOT projects is the cost. You'll notice it doubled the cost of the design. It's actually more than the original contract. Basically, we can't do the project without doing the push buttons. That's it.
Okay. There's questions, Mr. Fantini.
I was just curious with this new request from WashDOT, if that also came with a check from the state for additional funding.
They sure didn't. No, we still have the same existing 360 or 80,000 in the project from WashDOT.
Mayor Miller.
Mr. Walters.
The background section of the contract amendment indicates that the original contract assumed that WashDOT had approved the Chan plan, and thus the Chan plan task was excluded from the contract. Is this contract amendment, it's a little unclear to me. Obviously, updating the Chan plan is required and is part of this contract amendment. Is developing the Chan plan part of the contract amendment?
No, it's just amending so we have we were basically almost 100% design when this addition came to the project. So we have to update all the documents for the project.
But the push button design is an amendment to the Chan plan or a part of the Chan plan?
I did ask that and they said yes. So I'm not quite sure because it's usually just where the lines are going to go. But it does change the channelization plan, correct?
Okay. And so then the remaining conclusion here is that it is $133,000 to design the push buttons and the junction boxes and the non-slip junction boxes and that kind of thing at just what do we have? 3 intersections? At 3 intersections? Not to build the push buttons, not to buy the push buttons, not to install the push buttons, but to design the push buttons.
This is a design contract, correct?
It's $133,000.
Yes.
Is there something else in the scope that I'm missing?
Nope.
Is this it? Will there be more?
I don't think there's anything else they can add.
Because the total contract price then here for design will be $253,000. So if that's generally 10%, although you would think it could be less on an overlay, a straight overlay, the cost of construction is still estimated at 3 point something. Okay. And in the CFP, the overall project, not this design contract amendment, but the overall project is to be funded by 1.4 million or something in TBD money. WashDOT's given us a grant for 360,000 or somewhere thereabouts. And then we have a couple $100,000 in utility tax. Still short a little bit. So there must be another line item there for do you happen to recall?
No, I don't have that in front of me, sorry.
Okay. It just, I mean, I think I kind of made this clear, but it's shocking to me the cost of the push button design. And do we think that that's reasonable? I mean,
yeah, we did check into it. It's reasonable.
We checked with other
Yeah.
potential consultants or something. What else? How did we check on that?
We have 3 different transportation consultants on call. We checked with them.
Oh, okay. For other projects, you mean?
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. All right. Okay. Thank you.
Mayor Mo.
Share your sentiments. Ms. Cleveland McGrath.
So for these 3 intersections, if it costs this much to design these buttons, how much are these intersections going to cost us then to do these crosswalks?
We won't know till they design it.
I-
The actual cost of the push buttons, I don't know.
Well, yeah.
I don't think it'd be
I-
that much more than the design. It's literally the buttons
Uh,
and the wires and the conduit and the junction boxes.
I guess I get to a point where we just got the mayor's budget message. And at some point, if we just added $133,000 to design for 3 intersections, is this even a project we should be moving forward on? And if we have, I mean, is it another $130,000 to install those 3 intersection additional the design work that's coming from that to actually implement? What's the scope? Is it do we know? I'm really concerned, and I think a lot of us are rattled up here by the mayor's message that we heard for the first time. So all of these, including public safety, has kind of heard our reservations moving forward on a number of things tonight. So
Yeah, there was no easy way to deliver that. I apologize. I realize that was a bit of a gut punch for everybody. I think maybe there'll be an opportunity to dig into that as we go through your public works budget, the South Commercial. Obviously, it's kind of hard to approve this particular contract considering council's hesitation for, $150,000 of design for something they don't know what the price is. As part of the message was, we're going to have to phase the commercial project as we're not going to be able to pave all of 11th through 34th Street. And a lot of that's going to depend on, how much this is going to cost, how much phasing or how little phasing.
And we won't know that until we design it.
Oh, sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt you. Did I interrupt you? But you still have the floor.
Yeah, thank you. So I guess my other question is, it's a contract modification, but has this work already been done by Osborne?
No.
Okay, thank you.
Mayor Miller.
I think Mr. Walters. Yep.
Yeah, one of the lines in the mayor's budget message was that we're phasing the project. What can you describe the current thinking on when the project gets constructed and what elements get constructed when?
So we were thinking about splitting it up. We were going to go literally from 13th all the way down to 34th. And it's pretty easy to cut a project into chunks, you know, to do different pieces of it at a time. Maybe we can do half with the budget we have this year. And then the next year we can do the next half.
So we wouldn't do like all the ramps and the intersections and the buttons first and then come back and do the paving?
It'd be like 13th through 23rd.
We would cut it.
And then 23rd to 34th, that kind of cutting.
Is there any chance the buttons might change between phase 1 and phase 2?
Actually, I've seen that happen. Yeah, it could. It would just be.
Would we already have permission to do the 2025 version of the buttons?
Yes, once it's done and they're signed off on it, we're good.
Okay. And then what do you imagine the additional cost will be of mobilizing twice and, you know, doing a phasing approach?
Mobilization is usually like 10% of the project. So it adds cost to have 2 different projects.
So maybe we might spend that 10% twice instead of just once. Yeah.
Well, the cost of the total project will be in half too. So it'll be more. It's always more when you mobilize twice, but yeah, it's not terrible amount more.
And this contract amendment is being paid for out of Fund 105. What is the real source of the revenue there? Is it TBD? REIT? Okay. All right. Thanks.
Mayor Miller.
Mr. Fantini.
So thank you very much. I wasn't necessarily surprised by the mayor's budget message because I feel like in every meeting that we have been in over the past year, we've all said we've got some pretty tough choices to make. But with that being said, I kind of just wonder about hitting pause on this before we go down a road where we're spending a lot of money with kind of the new picture of the budget and everything. I worry that we might get to a point where we're just going to be like, we've spent all this money, but we're not ready to move forward on anything yet. So I guess my question is, what if we didn't approve this tonight and we did choose to hit pause on this project and kind of come up with a reimagined, phased, specific plan before we continue down the road? What would the cost impact be on us in that situation?
So it's important to understand, we don't know what the cost of all this electrical work is until we design it. So obviously we're here tonight, I was hoping you would approve it, but like, I can't tell you how much the actual construction cost is going to be until we have it designed. And this is the last piece, everything else is designed. So to stop or pause now and not do this last piece of it, I mean, we could, but you're not going to know what the actual cost of the total cost of the project is next year or until you design this part.
So if we did this piece, then we would have full design cost and everything, and that might be a better opportunity to hit pause and reevaluate at that time. Is that kind of what you're?
Yes, cutting it up would not require a washed up approval process. I mean, I've been at this with them for over a year, and yeah, just calling them and be like, hey, we're gonna go ahead and pause for now. It's gonna cause I put it on the agenda for a reason. I would recommend you guys pass this tonight so that you have a full picture of what it is going to cost to do Commercial Avenue from 13th to 34th.
And then if we did hit pause after that point, like I mean, I guess they can come back whenever they want and say whatever they want, but like there's a good idea that we'd be able to use that plan.
No, they have to sign a contract with us that they're done and we agree to the design.
Okay.
Period. So that I would recommend you guys get to that point before you pause it.
Thank you. That's very helpful.
Mayor Miller. Thank you. So when I'm looking at the scope of work provided by the consultant, it says Per this modification, the consultant will provide additional design work to update and expand the channelization plan, et cetera. So this sounds to me like, I guess you kind of addressed this, but we don't even have a full channelization plan right now. This is part of the contract. So we're not even there now to submit to WashDOT the channelization plan for them to approve. So to me, that says, and correct me if I'm wrong, like, we're not totally on the hook yet because they haven't approved it. I mean, this makes me nervous. If it's 10% to do it in 2 stages, that sounds to me like $350,000 a time. And in fairness, we all knew that we were going to have some hard decisions to make. But I personally didn't know until Friday afternoon that we were going to be talking about at 8.9 FTEs and 13 city employees being laid off. So yeah, we're rattled up here. And I'm rattled about this. And if we can save $150,000, if we can keep some of our people, that to me is more important than those potholes on South Commercial we've been driving on for 20 years anyway. So I am definitely reluctant to move this forward right now.
Mayor Miller.
Mr. Walters.
Well, I'm riled up about the cost of the buttons still, but I mean, I think very frankly, in the public works world, people who live in this world, you know, including our public works, but everybody in the world of public works needs to figure out how to do things cheaper. And obviously that would start with WashDOT. But here, I think we're talking about a project that really isn't general fund funded. It's not general revenue. And I think the point that Mr. with some exceptions, and I think we need to drill down onto those in the budget discussion. But I think the point that Mr. McDougall made when, I don't know, one of the other times that we discussed this project was that it's pretty important as an infrastructure piece to incentivize further investment in South Commercial. And one of the places that we're really in trouble is sales tax revenue. So, I mean, we don't have a lot of data to support that 100% that makes, but I think it makes sense. I think we would benefit from having this project done more than any other project on any other street in the city. And I'm not sure I'm supportive of phasing it. Maybe it makes more sense to delay it a year. Maybe that's not possible. You know, we can get into that discussion. But I do think it makes sense to spend a little bit more money, even though we'll have to swallow hard to be able to vote for $130,000 worth of button design. But if we will have a fuller picture, we will assumedly have an approved project, and then we can go looking for more money to do the project. Maybe we will be able to eventually get some money from the legislature. Mr. Ayum, if we had the project approved by WashDOT tomorrow, how long would we be able to hold on to that approval and that design before pulling the trigger on bidding it out?
So I don't think the WashDOT approval expires. It always is good practice to refresh your design just in case, I don't know, a block redeveloped, for example, you got to go back and fix the design. You have a lot less risk in this project about having to go back and refresh the design because it's really ADA ramps, wiring, and pavement. We're overlaying. So delaying it, I don't think is like if you delayed the CSO pump station, for example, we would have to refresh those plans a lot more significantly if we waited, 2 years to pick it back up. This one, you would have a lot less risk in delaying if you wanted to delay it or if you wanted to split it. The WashDOT approval doesn't change if we cut the project in half and do half at a time. The WashDOT approval stands.
Okay, yeah. So I think that's useful context for this. And if it's TBD money that we are spending, and to a lesser extent, if it's REIT that we are spending, there are a few other things that we can spend that on, and I would still be in favor of moving this forward.
Mayor Miller.
Mr. McDougall.
Yeah, I tend to agree with Mr. Walters on those points. Specifically, so if we do proceed with this and basically get approval, it sounds like we have essentially a window where we could defer the actual project, at least for a while. The 133,000 additional, is that coming straight out of REIT? because that's we can't spend on people.
Or TBD.
Yeah, and it's a good question. As I was sitting there, initially I said REIT, but I believe TBD is more restrictive than REIT. Generally, our policy is to spend the more restrictive money first, so we would likely use REIT on this part of it, on this design and.
We would like to use REIT for this, this
Sorry,
contract.
did I,
award.
TBD, sorry.
TBD.
So we'd spend TBD money first, sorry. Yeah,
And we spend TBD funds, if you wouldn't mind reminding me, can we spend TBD funds on salaries and benefits?
yeah, it's available for road maintenance generally, which would
Mhm.
include staff costs that went into that maintenance.
So could we switch this to REIT? Because
Yeah.
we're not allowed to spend
It-
REIT on salaries and benefits.
Well, REIT could be used similarly towards the project, which frequently includes those types of staff costs. So I'm just thinking in terms of it's kind of a fine line. TBD has to be used for road maintenance costs. REIT can be used for that plus other things. So I'm
Mhm.
just, as I'm thinking this through now, I would probably use TBD money for this design.
Okay, I may be splitting a hair here anyway, so proceeding with this now, it sounds like it's coming out of funds that are not basically funds that would be somebody's salary next year.
Yeah, so to be clear, these are restricted monies. They're not in any way general type of revenues that would be used.
Okay, thank you.
Mayor Miller,
Ms. Moulton.
one more question about that. So I have the CFP in front of me, and so I see 1.2 million in taxes, 1.54 in REIT, and I see $400,000 in utility tax and $360,000 in grants. That $400,000 in utility tax is, can you talk a little bit about that?
Sure. Yeah, that's the utility tax that comes from solid waste fees that represents the impact from those large trucks that generally are used for the overlay program for those road maintenance costs that those big trucks cause.
Okay, thank you. And is that money that could be used on staffing and replaced with some other funding source, or am I just
It's-
grasping here?
Yeah, no, that was put in place for the road maintenance costs. So similarly restricted for that same type of TBD use or like we've just been talking about.
Okay, thank you.
Mayor Miller.
Mr. Walters.
I would argue that that utility tax amount is really, there is no legal restriction that way. I mean, we justified an increase in the utility tax on solid waste by saying solid waste trucks impact the roads, but there's not a legal constraint as a result of that. I mean, that was more of a policy decision.
Yeah, no, that's a good point. Those revenue sources were identified by resolution for those purposes. So
Yeah, and TBD, I think we go beyond the statute and say what we want to use it for is not road maintenance generally, but really on, like, not filling potholes, but on overlays. And so it would be very consistent to use that for this project. And I've always thought that that's what we should use for this project, a couple years worth of TBD revenues. And maybe 2 years isn't enough, but to do the project. And so for this here, still, we can afford the 133 out of our TBD funds, and we can get this project to a place where it's ready to go. And then we can make the decision about how we want to fund it. Maybe we delete that utility tax out of it. Maybe we find some other funding source. Maybe the legislature decides to send us some more money. But we can't get to that point unless we know what the project looks like. So I still think we need to move this forward.
This is a 2025 expense. I mean, we'll probably get through the design by the end of the year, if not just into January. So not that helps. I don't know if that helps, but it's just like,
I stopped asking about those timelines a while ago after.
yeah, me too.
So, all right, council, it's your pleasure on this.
Mayor Miller.
Mr. Fantini.
Oh, my screen just went dark. Sorry. I move that the city council authorize the mayor to sign a modification to contract 16097 TRN 001 with Osborne Consulting Inc. in the amount of $133,465, increasing the total contract price to $253,905.
Motion by Mr. Fantini, a second by Mr. Walters to approve the contract modification as presented. Additional discussion. Mr. Franciac, vote please.
Ms. Cleland McGrath,
Yes.
Ms. Moulton,
Yes.
Mr. McDougall,
Yes.
Ms. Hubick,
Yes.
Mr. Fantini,
Yes.
Mr. Young,
Yes.
Mr. Walters,
Yes.
motion carries.
Okay, thank you for that. And item 7E, this is the 2026 budget work session, Public Works, a discussion item. And open for public comment. We tried to build on the success of the last time we did this. So you'll get an overview of the Public Works financial numbers. And then Mr. Rayan will take over and work, you know. So whenever you're ready, Mr. Hoagland and Ms. Peck and
Thank you, Mayor, members of the council, members of the audience. I wanted to just go through a couple of items, try to be brief before we get into the details of the Public Works budget. But we have talked a lot about, there's at least been rumors about how difficult the budget process has been. And I have a couple of editorial comments here. I'll say that I've been finance director for 18 years. This is the most difficult budget I've worked on, and that includes the 2009 budget when we were dealing with the Great Recession. As been pointed out already, the 2026 draft initially had a nearly $9 million shortfall that we were trying to close. And as of now, this budget presented to council, all of the accounting funds are balanced against projected revenues, and in some cases, including available fund balance. So just some of the salient changes that we implemented, and I did want to point out that as we were making these changes, we did try to keep in mind the city council priority of staff retention. This is a waterfall chart that shows the different elements that go into that $9 million shortfall that we balanced. This comes from the list of items here over the next couple of pages. So I wanted to point a few of these out directly. Now, I just said we were cognizant of staff priority of keeping employees. You'll see here that there's a significant number that have been identified during that process. So we weren't 100% successful in being able to retain every staff member in this draft. So some of the items here, some of the edits you'll see are just kind of budget cleanup. There was a safer grant revenue that was not included in the original draft, EMS revenues that were not calculating and flowing through correctly, just kind of some general budget cleanup that we deal with every year. These things highlighted in yellow here, these are ones I wanted to point out. This first one, Q1 hiring freeze, what this is indicating is waiting until after first quarter 2026 for the 3 additional safer positions in the fire department. That would holding off on filling those positions to that time frame would save an estimated $135,000. At this point, that doesn't seem to be a great amount of risk since the department and website needed to access those funds is currently closed due to the shutdown. 2025 unfilled positions, the mayor mentioned this in his budget message. So we have a number of unfilled positions open currently right now in the 2025 budget. Those were removed from the 2026 budget that removed $518,000 of budget. staff reductions identified, reduces another 742,000. And I wanted to address this $250,000 from the library reserve fund. So as you know, the library fund is a separate accounting fund. There is not a direct transfer of money from the library fund to a different fund. What we did there is during our cash flow analysis from all the different accounting funds that we have, I recognized that the library had enough cash reserves that we could reduce the property tax allocation into the library by $250,000, and they would still have enough cash to not go negative during the year as they were processing through their accounts payable, through their cash and the resulting cash flow in the accounting in the accounting fund. So I'm happy to address any of those issues if anybody has questions about any of that. Next few items, I wanted to make clear, council, I think, is aware that we have held our ER&R replacement charges at 50% replacement the last few years to try and conserve budget. That's been dropped to 0% now. So in the current draft for the governmental funds, there are no replacement charges being collected for future replacement of those vehicles used in the governmental funds. Same thing with DIS, Department of Information Services. That's essentially the same process. We set aside money for future computer replacements. We dropped that to 0. In the governmental funds, that saved an additional $164,000. Overtime significantly reduced by $150,000. And then this increased utility tax. So I wanted to point out these few bullets at the bottom of the page. There are some assumptions in the existing draft budget that will require council action beyond what we're doing through this budget review process. The first one's 1% property tax increase. We talked about that at the revenue hearing on October 6th. We've talked a number of times about potentially increasing utility tax to the water, sewer, and storm sewer charges. I know we talked about this at the retreat and at various times throughout this budget process. That would generate an additional $613,000 into the general fund. It's identified here. The last bullet here, while not affecting expenses, I will be bringing back a proposal to council to freeze our rainy day fund at the level that it's at now. As a reminder, our rainy day fund is based on 17% of the most recently completed year's non-capital cash expenditures. What that means is we remove non-cash expenditures like depreciation. We also reduce capital because that generally has associated revenue streams associated to that capital project. Based on cash flow projections right now, that would save over $400,000 in cash that would leave that in operating cash and not restrict it in the rainy day fund. Now, I went through a lot there. I'm happy to answer questions that council might have. Okay, this is a quick look at our major revenue streams versus expenditures, operating expenditures. Our three largest tax revenue streams are property tax, sales tax, and utility tax. Those three revenue streams make up roughly 85% of the non-restricted tax revenues that we have. So looking at the past 4 years, 2021 through 25, the changes between those years, year to year, for those three revenue streams has averaged a 1.05% increase year over year. I removed the Prop 1 increase out of 2024 to try and keep that view looking at apples to apples. Overall, looking at our tax revenues, the increase was 2.7, but those three major tax revenue streams was just over 1% per year. That same time frame, operating expenses have increased an average of 9.9%. That's illustrated here in this chart at the bottom of the page. This is just taking a quick look at CPI over the last several years. So you see, going back to 2013, it was pretty even, bumped up to 3%, couple of times there. And then post-COVID, jumped up 6.5%, 8.9%, and then started falling again. And these numbers don't line up, or I'm sorry, the dates don't line up exactly. What those are referencing back to is our previous year calculation. So for example, this October 2024, when we base our CPI adjustments in the utilities, we look back from October 24 to the current timeframe, October 25. So this is actually September number, 2.9538. That'll be roughly the same, I'm sure, come October. But looking at this 4-year period, 2021 through 2025, the total CPI totaled 23.2%. So a couple of things that came to mind as I was going through this material, thinking about tonight and wondering what I would ask if I was sitting up there on the dais. And a couple of things. I think one of the most obvious questions is why now? So why weren't we hearing about this 6 months ago, a year ago, last year? And I guess I would say that we have been talking about this for quite some time. For 3 years now, I've been saying revenues have been flat. They're projecting again to be flat. We have figured out a way, though, to put budgets together every year. We had some timely grants, like the outfall grant for the fiber project, that allowed a lot of staff costs to be allocated to those grants as we were going through that process. We had cash reserves, relatively healthy cash reserves across the board we were able to take advantage of. So getting to this time frame now, I was looking back at the hiring that we've done this year in 2025. You might be asking, why didn't we have a hiring freeze on? We effectively did. It was more of a targeted hiring freeze. I think we've talked about that, but over this past year, 2025, year to date, we've hired 27 people in 2025. Of those, 11 are public safety. So my understanding was the Prop 1 positions were kind of not going to be at the front of mind for the time being. 6 of them were purely utility funded for either the water or sewer departments. We had 2 that were general fund directly. One of them was in the building department, one of them was in fiber, and we had 4 that were partially tax funded, partially utility funded. And I think that adds up to 27. So we didn't have any new hires. They were all replacements. The vast majority utility funded. Oh, I'm sorry, part I missed. We did have 4 hires that were part-time employees that were hired into the museum and library. But for the most part, we did scrutinize each of those positions that were put out to add. And in almost every case, they were utility or partially utility funded. The other thing about these revenues, I wanted to point out, it occurs to me that this is what a soft landing looks like. I started hearing that term after COVID, 2021 timeframe. I was here, as I said, in 2008 when we put together the 2009 budget. That was nothing like a soft landing. That crashed and burned for a couple of years, but then we started picking up again. We've been bouncing along pretty flat for 3 years now. I keep waiting for revenues to pick up, and they haven't. And we've finally burned through our cash reserves to the point that we can't go another year relying on cash reserves, because we will be out of money next year if we try to do that again. The other thing I would say, maybe misery loves company, but we're not alone. All of the other cities and counties that I know of in this area are going through exactly the same thing. I've met with finance directors on the other side of the county recently, talking to my friend at the city of Mount Vernon. That was a few months ago. They were in exactly the same situation. He was saying exactly the same thing that I was, which is, I don't know what else to do. So that's how we got here. A lot of editorial comments by me, but I'm happy to answer any questions or hear any thoughts council may have before we get into the details of Public Works.
Mr. Walters.
Mr. Hoagland, I think you did a pretty good job summarizing. I also think that a lot of us have been talking about this problem for the last 10 plus years, right? Because big component of our general fund revenues are property tax. Property tax is essentially 0% increase year after year after year. We take a 1% increase. That's great. If inflation's 1%, that would help us keep up with inflation. But when inflation is 2% and cumulative, and then when it's 3%, and now when it's 25% over 4 years, you can't keep up with it with a 1% increase. And several of us have been saying that a lot, and we're not kidding. And until the legislature changes the law so that the property tax total revenue can increase with inflation, inflation will just continue to chip away and reduce the amount of property tax that we receive in real dollars and the percentage of our general revenues that can be attributed to property tax. The solution there is either the legislative change or for us to move toward other revenue sources that aren't property tax, which is sales tax, utility tax, potentially a B&O tax. But there is no escaping the simple math that property tax just keeps getting smaller every year, and it's nobody's fault. It's simply what inflation does to it. I wish that we had better options at our disposal, but without a lot more sales tax generation year after year after year, we can't keep up with the property tax loss and we can't keep up with increased expenses. So we're in a bad situation right now, but we are going to be in a bad situation again next year because inflation will assumedly be 3% again. Maybe it'll be worse. And property tax will still be the 1% increase. The only caveat there is if a whole lot of new construction gets added, which seems sort of unlikely in the next 12 months. So, I mean, I think that we can work around the margins here and maybe we will, find ways to modify the budget in small ways, but the problem is largely going to remain. And then it's going to be, again, something that we have to face next year unless we come up with a new revenue stream or a lot more revenue from existing streams. And there's nothing that can be debated about that because it's math. It's the math of inflation. So it's not going to be, it obviously hasn't been fun times for staff in City Hall in the last couple of weeks here, but it's not going to be over the next 12 months or the ensuing years unless we make some significant changes. And those changes aren't just making expense cuts because that only delays the problem. It doesn't fundamentally change the picture that we have to deal with. I just wanted to add that little bit of sobriety to all of this because, the painful cuts that we have to make this year are not the end.
Well, I've got to add to that editorial because I know that Mr. Walters and myself, when we were on council many years ago, we probably both said this, we may have had a different approach to some of the budget items, but I think we both equally said, wow, this is probably not sustainable. And we've hit that point where we can no longer sustain it with cash reserves. So with that, I think we'll dive right into the public works piece. And again, council, if you think you need a break or anything, we'll try to keep this a little more workshop type. So just, shout out. But Mr. Ram, when you're ready.
I am ready. I was going to skip that slide. Yeah, we're just going to straight to that one. That'd be great. So do you guys have a slide deck in front of you? So we're on slide 12. So this is the streets.
Well, yeah, Mike. Yeah, Mike.
Is this better?
Yeah, that's better.
Okay.
Yeah, we got to eat the microphones tonight.
Yeah, okay, we'll eat the microphone. One of the main things you're going to notice, especially in the salary and benefits, is that we, Public Works has used this software called Cartograph. It's our asset management software, but it's also a fantastic way to track our time and what we do with our time. So for basically, until we use that data, which is accurate data, we staff call it the 100% rule, that you track all your hours at work. Now we do have good hard data, and we were for the streets crew. The streets crew is funded by wastewater, stormwater, and streets, and we were willfully undercharging the street side of it. So you'll see in the first the salaries and benefits are both up by 50% in this part of it. That's not an increase in staff. It's just a reallocation of the cost of the streets crew. The other one I wanted to point out, the professional services. So that's the overlay program. So that's obviously been pretty diminished and reallocated into South Commercial. The last thing on this page I wanted to talk about is the utility services is up 19%, and that's the power to light up the streetlights. And I can pause there. Is there? I can keep going. Okay. So the engineering side of the streets and arterial constructions on the next page 13. Same thing there. That wasn't as far out of whack there on the salary and benefits, but we did the professional services, just like everything in the budget. We basically everything got reduced at least sometimes 50%. So you'll see that quite a bit in the reductions. I wasn't planning on really pointing out the reductions, but just know in general we went through every single line item in our budget and tried to cut it in half. And if we could live with that, we did. If we not, we argued our case and tried to get additional funding in those line items. So that's the engineering part of streets. There's not a whole lot to share there. The administration. Yeah, there's not a whole lot there to worry about. I guess the communication piece, the communications is like cell phones, tablets, that type of thing. We were tracking willfully higher than our budget. So we are making the budget match the actuals for 2026. And then
Mr. Walters.
So those $4,500 for communication, did you say tablets?
Yeah, we have
Tablets with
cellular
connectivity.
tablets and cell phones.
So not just cell phones. And so those weren't they weren't in the right category. Are they off, or you weren't?
Yeah, I think they were in the wrong category. So we just moved the money over. We had enough money and then we're not over budget. But for 2026, we're just trying to match the actuals for that line item.
Okay. All right, good. Thanks.
And then we do have the CFP in here. I don't know if we want to rehash the CFP discussion we've had, but there for each different piece of public works, we did insert the CFP for the 6-year CFP in this slideshow. So slide 15 is the proposed transportation capital facilities plan.
Mayor Miller.
Mr. Walters.
Okay, so Mr. Hoagland and I had this conversation just a bit before committee meetings this afternoon, but the taxes line on the CFP doesn't have the TBD in parentheses, but here we've got TBD. So that's what that line means. That's really helpful because then we can see that's money that really can't be spent on many other things. But utility tax is something that can be spent on other things, because utility tax is really just general revenue. And we had programmed a certain amount as a way of getting to the 1.8 million annually that we were spending on roads. But first of all, that's our own target, so we can reduce it if we want, if we think that that's the best use. But also, it's not legally restricted to be spent on this kind of stuff. We could be spending it on other things. So that's not an insignificant amount, especially in 2026, but in successive years too. And I think I don't have a proposal for any change at this point, but I think that we ought to be thinking about that because there's $600,000 right there. I don't know how it would affect any individual project. Maybe it's, I think 400 of it for 2026 is programmed for South Commercial. So maybe that is able to free up some money, but I mean, there's a lot of variables here. I just think that if we had our preference, would reduce some of the projects that we have, even though there are projects that we want as well. So I just bookmark that for the moment so that we can talk about it a little bit more later, maybe in the next week's budget.
If it's okay, one thing to point out is back on the slide around street maintenance, you'll see the other improvements line item. There you'll see the $8.7 million that the streets folks did ask for their other improvements. The funding that has been allocated for that line item is only 5.290. So that's one thing to keep in mind, is the information you're seeing on the CFP is going to be the fully funded view. But through the negotiations with the teams and the budget cuts that we've made, of their $8.7 million ask, they only received 5.29. And that'll be a consistent theme across.
So will we get an updated view of the CFP then? That will be kind of important. It would be great to see both.
Yeah, so we did not. We purposely left the CFP whole because we didn't want to go through and tell the teams which projects they had to cut. So the options were for them to go down a path of prioritizing internally based on input from the different committees as they stand today, subject to change, of course, and then come back if they needed additional funding each quarter or as work was progressing. And they looked like they were going to be over their commitment that they'd made currently.
Yes. So you and Mr. Hoagland have both talked about that a couple of times. So I think I understand. I don't agree with that approach though. I would prefer that we see the projects we're actually thinking we can fund with the new amount that we have figured out, but also see the ones that we can't fund, this view, but also the view with the revised 5 point whatever million. I think I bet that a majority of council would want to have a hand in prioritizing those projects and deciding which ones we pursued.
Ms. Moulton?
Thank you. Ms. Peck, can you tell me again where it shows where the money was reduced? That was.
Of course. So it should be in the email handout that you received. It's on slide 12. The row to see that on is other improvements. And you'll notice that the 26 budget requested aligns with the current CFP view. However, the 26 budget allocated is the lesser amount.
Okay, I see that now. Thank you. And I also want to say I would agree with Mr. Walters that I think that the 2026 capital improvement proposals, I think it would benefit us all if we as a council could talk about those and what our priorities are. I don't know that those should be made, and those decisions should be made strictly internally by the Public Works Department. I think this is something that's going to affect us all as a community.
Mayor Miller.
Mr. McDougall?
Question on the bottom half of this table, I guess the funding sources, that still lists the full 8.7. So if the actual sort of allocated funding is 5.2, how is that broken out across the kind of 7 categories?
Okay, so it's.
And can we just see that like on the next?
Yeah, so I will go to the podium and then I will also point you to your attachment in your email. The line item detail is where you'll see the amount of funding that we actually allocated. I'm going to go ahead and show an example just so everybody can see how it works. And Mr. Hogan has the answer. It's REIT of 1.3 is what they got. And then a bunch of grants.
So I think I'm hearing from council that email may have just gotten through to the council.
That thing that came in at 7.
All right, apologize if you didn't get the email. It was sent prior to the conclusion of the reading of the budget message. So what you're seeing here is the line item detail, and hold on, I'm getting there. All right, so the streets CFP is on page 8 of 14 pages. And what you'll see here is an allocation of almost $8 million in grants. So the thought there was if they have a project that's identified to be fully funded via a grant, then that is okay to move forward. For streets, you'll see we have a different allocation for streets and sidewalks. Those two amounts together, so it's 1.35 million and 150,000 is a REIT allocation to streets. And you'll see where any kind of tax funding is the funding source for a project. They've been given a total of $1.5 million to support those funding requests.
So again, what I'm hearing from council is that, and makes perfect sense that council wants to be involved in prioritization of those projects, but sometimes and my parks director's not here, but I've always often had this conversation, like, would a skate park be your number one priority? Not necessarily, but when somebody brings you $1 million, it becomes your number one priority. So I think that's kind of I know that's weird logic, but that's, again, we're happy to entertain this. This is why we're here, Mr. Walters.
No, I follow that entirely, but I just would like to see that written down.
Of course.
And this view, I'm having a little trouble with.
Yeah.
But the CFP view, I think, is maybe the one we're most familiar with. And I mean, if you took the CFP view and added the 2026 request and then the 2026 funded or proposed to be
I
funded.
think that's probably the view you're going to see next.
I think that would be great. And maybe with, I don't know, a note or something about, this project is funded. It's funded with a grant. It's it's secured for 2026. I guess we would know that, right? If you list a grant for 2026, we're getting that grant.
Yeah. If they didn't give the fact that they've listed the grant means that they've identified a grant opportunity. They haven't actually obtained the grant
except
in most cases.
For 2026, probably does mean that they've gotten it, doesn't it?
It does not. So they'll pursue the grant. If the grant is not successful for whatever reason, that project would not move forward based on the current funding approved.
Okay, so I guess, still some narrative explanation of where each one stands in terms of funding would be helpful.
I think we can do that.
Thank you.
All right.
It is also a classic issue of capital projects that they do lap over a year really easily. I think South Commercial is a great example of that. So just
every other project is a big example of that. And
but all the projects I've worked on since I've been here, Mayor, yeah, they've been multi-year. It just takes the time that it takes to design it and get it ready for bid and then build it. So just kind of keep that in mind. A lot of these projects are not just one and done in 2026. Okay, are we ready to move on to the slide 16, which is the ER&R operations, sanitation, and facilities? So if you go to slide 17, I didn't have anything really here to highlight except that we just took a lot of cuts. This is general fund. This is your vehicles and equipment, including the fleet mechanics.
Mayor Miller,
Ms. Hubick.
how are you cutting insurance by 23%?
That's a
Do you
good
have a
question.
secret? As a homeowner and a car driver, I would
Yeah.
love to know.
My car insurance went up. Yeah, I don't know.
Yeah.
No, we do a review of so it's property insurance as well as liability insurance goes into that. We do a review of that every year, and we look at the last 5-year history, and we allocate based on those prior year charges. So it's generally, you'll see some fluctuation year to year throughout the budget on those insurance lines because of that, because of those claims history.
Oh,
that we
okay.
update.
Okay, super helpful. Thank you. Nice work.
We ready to move on from fleet to facilities? This was another one where the salary allocation, so the facilities are actually funded through the interfund, but the staff positions were funded half with the interfund general fund, and then basically the utilities paid twice for those positions. So we eliminated that, and that's accurate, and that's why the salaries and benefits lines are higher. There's no additional staff or anything like that. Again, the communications thing, this just cell phones, it's up a little bit. And the other improvements, I wanted to point that out to you. So this was one of the tough decisions that I had to make, where would I spend REIT? And I recommended that you invested in your capital, or you invested in your facilities based on the facility condition assessment you had done this year. This does not fund 2026 in they gave us a plan for every year for the next 10 years, and that doesn't fully fund it. But it does put you on good footing to get some of the high priority projects done in 2026 to the buildings. All right, moving on to the capital facilities plan, 6-year plan for the facilities. Do you have any questions there?
And again, this is going to be a similar situation where they asked for the almost $1.9 million. We've allocated $800,000 for this team for capital. And again, we'll rework the CFPs and work with each team to get you a view of how they think that those dollars should be allocated and give you the opportunity to provide input.
Mayor Miller.
Mr. Walters.
There's 430,000 in rates user fees as a revenue line for 2026. Do we know what project that is associated with? It's just hard to imagine which facilities project user fees would be, unless that covers something else.
Those. Yeah, it should be. So.
Will, do you have that handy in the project sheets?
I know that at least a little of that is from the ops facility repair, because it's utility funds, because utilities operate out of operations, the security system project there. So that's a portion of that.
I think that's what those bullet points 1 and 2. So when those items are split, when facilities works on those utility items as well. So in this case, some of these are split between governmental buildings and utility buildings. And that's where that funding source for the utilities would be in that form of charges for service or user
So
fees.
facility ops repair projects, that's probably the project that is drawing on
It's both those labeled number 1 and 2 with the
1
blue
and
dot.
2. Ops equipment heated
So
storage.
the
Okay.
heated storage is partially out of the sewer fund because it's going to store sewer vehicles.
Okay.
And the other
Alright.
one is because of the security system with the water system parts and inventory there.
But equipment heated storage is used for more than just sewer. That's why it's with ops. Is that
Yes.
okay? All right.
All right, anything else?
Feel like there might be another question.
Yeah, Mayor Miller.
Oh, go ahead.
Sorry, I think I may have missed something. So the 500,000 item is split 50-50 with the R&R. So that's 250,000.
It's not split 50-50.
Sorry?
It's not 50-50 split. The funding split is on the actual CFP page that I don't have in front of me at the moment, but it's not a 50-50 split.
Oh, okay. So it says split, but it didn't specify the percentages.
So on the actual CFP information page, it'll have the percentages on there, I believe. I don't have the full CFP in front of me.
Is that in this one?
No, I don't
It's
think
it's the last section of your booklet. You have the CFP.
Okay.
Public Works projects are on pages, sorry, 24 through 44 is where you'll find the projects that Will is referencing.
so. It looks like the utility portion is 350,000 and the REIT portion is 150,000.
26, is that?
Page 27.
Okay. Got it. Thank you.
All right.
Okay, so let's move on to sanitation is the next one. Not a whole lot to share there other than to point out your professional services line item has gone up substantially, and that is because of the A Avenue landfill remedial investigation. I think it was last week we were here to talk about that, but this is actually paying for the study to be conducted in 2026, and that is dictated by the state of Washington agreed order. Okay, and that was it for the general fund part. Now we're on to storm. In engineering, one of the things to point out, the professional services is increased. We just moved that out of the administrative side though, so it's not an actual increase in the cost of professional services for stormwater. It's just that we had it in the administration line. So you'll see on the administration line, it's zeroed out on the next page in the book or your slide deck you're looking at. Moving on to administration, I didn't have anything else really to point out to you other than that the professional services was zeroed out and moved over to the actual engineering side of the budget.
Mayor Miller.
Mr. Walters.
So what is the professional services that was on admin and is now in storm? What is that for? What are we spending it on?
A couple different things. It's the design. So we contract out the design of stormwater repairs. A couple of examples are the piping of the pipe on the very northern side of MJB, just south of the school district building and the port building. We're having that designed right now, for example. Another one is a sinkhole in the heavy haul route.
Seems odd it was ever on the administration component though.
It made sense to the stormwater people to put it over in the engineering side because the administration is really mostly just myself and Sydney. So I'm not running those contracts. The other thing we do is a third party review of stormwater. I don't know if is that part of that one? No, that's a separate one. Okay. I didn't say that right. The stormwater review of permits, not contracts.
And how is that funded?
That's so we pay for the review with the stormwater utility, the first two, but then if people keep coming back again and again with iterations of their stormwater plans, we start charging them for reviews, starting the third review.
It seems to me that should be funded from their permit application fees.
So we used to not charge at all. And then we started charging to encourage people to do a better job on their stormwater permit materials. So that's why the first two are free.
But are we recovering any of that cost from applicants?
We haven't been, no.
No?
Not to date.
Okay. Well, there's an opportunity.
Yeah. Yeah, you could do that. We used to do it with staff in-house, but I preferred to have a licensed engineer.
Well, and that's a separate question. It's just that review should be covered by application fees in my mind. So that may require an amendment to our fee schedule, but.
Yeah, we can look to work with the team to potentially update the unified fee schedule that'll come to the council later in the process.
Yeah. Thank you.
Administration, not a whole lot there to point out to you. And then the last page, this is the crew, and there's not a lot to point out there, except for I wanted to draw your attention to the taxes. So when we collect utility taxes, it goes to the utility, and then the utility has to pay the general fund. So this is assuming the increase that's been proposed to the utility taxes on stormwater, and that's why you see that 26% increase there. It's just the stormwater utility paying that money collected to the general fund. Okay. And then the next page is the stormwater 6-year CFP. And on the other page, you can see we asked for 1.1 million and 850,000 is proposed. And that's largely the two projects I just talked about, the piping of the ditch on the north end of MJB and then fixing the sinkhole in the haul route, heavy haul route.
Mayor Miller.
Smolton.
Sorry, Mr. Ream, I didn't quite understand. So you said you asked for 1.125 million, but that's what you're getting, right? So I think I heard you wrong.
850,000 is what the budgeted amount is.
Okay, so
If
where
you
am I
look at
seeing
the
that?
page, on page 24,
Okay.
at the bottom there says other improvements.
Okay,
And
thank
it
you. I
says
was,
we asked for 1.125 and the amount that we could afford was 850,000.
okay, thanks.
Yeah, and again, that's where we'll work to get it a little clearer, what we're used to looking at, the CFP.
Mayor Miller.
Yeah, Mr. Walters.
So on the next slide, which projects will you do with the 850 then?
The two at the top there, the storm line and the port heavy haul route, and then
Yeah.
the 17th Street pipe and
And
outfall
back to the
repair.
CFP
Can you
page.
advance one?
Oh,
on
we're
the
not
slide?
on the right
Yeah.
page.
Back to the CFP page.
There we go.
But those total more than 850. I mean, that's, I guess, the genesis of my question.
Yep.
Those total 1.125.
Okay, so going back to, sorry, Mayor Miller, thanks. Yeah, so going back to the question, so what, I mean, because we're
You couldn't afford more than 850,000. So
so we're gonna,
pushing both ahead as fast as we can. And when the money's gone, it's gone.
Whatever alleged domain there you're pulling, can we do that with other parts of the budget too?
I'm sorry, I missed the question.
If whatever sleight of hand that we are achieving there, can we do that with a whole bunch of the rest of the budget?
So I guess I'd point out that this is one of the funds that we'll be requesting a rate increase on. So just to support the 850,000, we're proposing a $5 per month increase in user fees. So
And so you can't achieve the 850 without that?
that's correct.
Okay. So does that imply though that you really will only be able to do one of those projects? And obviously it's going to be the heavy haul route.
That would be my guess. So we have the 17th Street pipe and the outfall. I mean, that's some serious permitting. I don't know how long that's going to take us to accomplish. We're still in design, but like we're literally going to build a new outfall and extend it out into so that the future promenade is able to connect to, instead of having build a bridge that's sideways on the shoreline, which I highly don't recommend, but to have that all filled in and that you can have a trail that's on land and not a bridge. But yeah, that's going to take us some time. I hope it gets done next year. We'll see how it goes. And by then, to be honest with you, we could just wait till 2027 to do the project. And then you'll have enough money.
Yeah, except for the 2027 requests are more than the 2026 requests by $500,000.
Yeah, we'll just keep pushing them out.
Yeah.
That's all we can do.
Most of those were in the 2026 budget. We pushed them out into 2027. We're just, the financing strategy that we came up with was a $5 per month increase, which would generate enough to get,
A little closer, Steve. You got to eat the
which would
microphone.
generate enough to get one of those projects done. Then we move into 27. There's going to have to be prioritization of those projects. Simply can't afford everything that's in the CFP year to year.
We were aspirational when we built, well, we didn't
Yes.
realize the financial situation when we built the CFP, just to kind of put that in your guys' mind, that the realities of the financial situation were not clear to us when we were basing on a workload and what we thought we could handle.
Well, and I think importantly, half of the financial situation are the needs that don't get funded. So it is critically important that we see those. So thank you for that.
Yeah, just for the public too, we took the step and built a plan for each one of the utilities as well as the transportation system and the facilities. So you have a lot of information about stuff that needs improvements, probably more than you ever probably have. And it's all brand new, current information. So that's why we built the CFP, and then the realities of finances came into play.
Okay, go ahead. If you, somebody ready to go? No, I was saying go ahead to.
I
Ms.
guess
Clune with that.
having a hard time understanding, we need to do both of those. The 17th Street pipe and outfall, we've started the process of design, haven't we?
Yeah.
And that's really got to get done because we have also a road that's sinking next, like that goes across it, right?
No, that was more so to encourage the to get out of the way of the MJB
Right.
property. We needed to pipe that because if they go to build, we have no access to that ditch. And
Yeah,
then
I mean, so it's pushing that off another year doesn't quite make sense either. Like they both need to get done. Are we looking for grants on this project?
No,
Or
they're
it's,
not
no,
grant
we're just
eligible.
doing it.
They're not grant eligible.
Right. Okay.
But certainly a question before, how would you prioritize these with, even though neither of them, we have enough money? We have, no, I was asking council on this
Oh,
one.
sorry. I thought you were looking at me.
Yeah, well, I mean, it's hard to give a quick answer because this is the first time we're really seeing it, so.
Mayor Miller.
Mr. Walters.
I concur with the prioritization of those two projects. The heavy haul route sinkhole issue is a pretty big project that needs to get tackled. MJB related project also needs to get done. I assume that we don't have sufficient fund balance to draw upon to do.
Yeah, that's correct. So I guess we can move forward if it pleases council to move forward with that charges for service increase. We get into next year and we can monitor cash flow and see how the designs look, project out through the end of the year and make a decision at that point. So I guess that would be, I would recommend that approach, kind of a measured implementation.
As these are project estimates.
Yeah, I think that what we'll end up with though is we're going to have to take a harder look at what increase we need in the storm utility, because we do have, $10 million worth of projects here, and the $5 a month increase won't cover it. So are some of these ones that we don't really need? Maybe, but several of them I'm pretty sure that we do. So, I mean, the $5 a month increase gets us through 2026, although not quite. And then we're going to have to take another look at this again, I think. I mean, am I wrong about that?
No, you're reading the tea leaves. That's
Okay.
what's going on. Okay, let's move on to wastewater. So in engineering, same deal. We're doing more wastewater projects. So the reallocation of the salaries and wages increased on the wastewater utility. That was all I really wanted to point out to you on that page, unless you have questions.
Mayor Miller.
Mr. Walters.
On that last page there, there's also a flag on interfund. Can you or Mr. Hoagland describe what interfund means in this context? What that's being transferred from?
Yeah, those interfund transfers, the ER&R department.
That's going to the ER&R and DIS.
Yeah,
Okay.
that's correct. So this engineering department spans a number of funds. So the utility funds, we left 100% funded on both the ER&R and DIS. And that's reflected here in this slide.
And so why is that one going up?
It's just the equipment that's included in those. So this engineering slide combines the utilities as well as, transportation and other areas. So it just reflects the increased fleet in those areas. Like I can't tell you exactly what those pieces of equipment are, but it would be in the utilities, their fleet increased.
But in the engineering department, is it going to be just regular cars and trucks?
I'll have to come back on that. I mean, that's what makes sense, but it's also a fair increase from 500 to 700. So I'll have to double check.
Okay. Mr. Littman, you think you might have something to?
I don't know about the engineering question of that, but I know the increase in equipment would be probably new pump station generators we just installed in the last year or two in sewer. I don't know why it would be under engineering, but that's the equipment increase.
Is that, are you talking about this slide?
You asked about the interfund.
Yeah.
So if the ER rates have gone up for sewer, I'm guessing it's because of new sewer pump station generators is where that cost would come from for the replacement charges.
Oh, okay.
Oh,
I didn't realize that
No.
sewer pump station generators would be in the ER&R fund.
They are, yeah.
Oh, all right.
sorry, if I may, Mr. Mayor. Rhonda reminded me the engineering category is where also the interfund charges reside for the overhead accruals, the administrative overhead accruals that the general fund charges to the utilities for those utilities use of administrative departments that reside in the governmental funds. For example, finance, HR, legal, those utilities don't need to pay for their own administrative departments. They use the cities, but they have to pay their portion. And that's also included in this category.
Okay.
All right, moving on to the administration. A couple things to point out that jumped out at me. The taxes again. So that's the utility tax that the wastewater utility pays to the general fund that if we collect it, if you do raise it 2%. Insurance increased quite a bit. There's not really controllable. And then the last one to point out is the debt service. So all the weeks are just floating together now, but the loan that we took from water, there's a big chunk of that increase. And then I think there was a change in how we show in our budget book that we do have a $10 million bond that we're paying debt service on. So that's another thing that made that come up this year.
And historically, we were only showing in the utility expenses, the debt service interest payment. And through the research studies that came out of the utility work that happened this year, we determined that it would be a good idea to show the expenses for both the principal and the interest, because it truly is an expense that's being incurred by the utility. Even though the requirement only is to move cash around, we decided it was a good idea to also reflect the expense being incurred as well.
Moving on to the sewage collection. sewage collection. Um, Nothing really jumped out for me to point out to you. If you had any questions, or we're here to take them. And then, okay, next page is sewer treatment. I didn't have anything really big to point out to you in this part. We do have professional services there. That's a lot to do with trying to figure out what to do with the sewer treatment plan as it ages, especially kind of the closest thing to come is the solids handling and our incinerator. So there's a little bit of increase there in professional services to get a game plan, a 10-year game plan. The next page is the wastewater capital facilities plan. This is similar to the stormwater, so this assumes the other improvements line. Let's see. Yeah, we asked for almost 7.5 million, and with the $5 per month increase, we think we can afford the $5.86 million capital program. Kind of the same deal as with transportation. The projects that are in 2026, we will work on those. Some of these will slip into the next year, just like they do every year. So we are comfortable again, not having it fully funded, but we'll keep close tabs on it to make sure we don't go past our allocation.
Mayor Miller,
Mr. McDougall.
So I see the 5.6 number on the sewer treatment. On the previous page, sewage collection, the other improvements line is zeroed out. Is that stuff that was just shifted from one place to another in the capital facilities plan?
There weren't any capital projects that fell into that category this year. That was the outfall. That's why it's so large in the prior year.
Yeah.
That helps.
There's pump
Great.
station this year, that type of stuff. It's if it's not the plant, basically.
Okay, great. Thanks.
Yeah.
Thanks for the clarification.
All right, we're almost there. Moving on to the water system. For engineering, again, I didn't have anything really that jumped out at me to share. We just took a reduction as much as we could. Administration, again, the utility tax going to the general fund from the water fund.
And just for clarity, this is where you'll see the overhead is in administration for the water system utility.
So moving on to water maintenance, I didn't have anything that really jumped out at me to talk about.
And I guess before anybody asks, the one thing I will point out is that we did not fully fund the capital request. Even though the water utility does have enough support in their rates, we want to do a deeper dive into the capital projects and align those with the capital investment cash that's being held in the different sections, whether it be regional, retail, refinery, and just make sure that we have everything aligned and we're not overburdening one area versus another, just to make sure that we're good.
The water utility revenues are solid, by the way, but there was some parity issues with the budgeting, so we wanted to we could have not cut stuff, I guess, but at the same time it just seems it's not unfair, but it's just heartless, I guess, to be like, oh, we don't have to take a cut here, so we're not gonna. So we looked at the budget the same way we did with the others. So for the water treatment plant, one of the things I wanted to point out was the utility services. So Puget Sound Energy changed us to a new rate structure, and boy, did it make our power rates for the water plant go up 53%.
Mayor Miller?
Yeah, Mr. Young.
Thank you. No, yeah, Mr. Ray, that rate increase, was it expected? I know this may not be the platform for that, but that seems shocking. And I was just wondering if there were negotiable terms or was that just non-optional?
Yeah, the Puget Sound Energy has a, boy, what do they call it? A schedule. So we were on a schedule that they'd like to retire, and we said, no, we want to stay on our schedule. And then we got our bill. And it was like, I think $200,000 a month more than we paid the prior month. And so then we said, okay, fine, we'll go on your new schedule, which is 50% increase in the power bill. So no, we weren't expecting it. Puget Sound Energy didn't ask our opinion about it. We tried to stay with the schedule we had because we thought that would be similar to our cost now, and that didn't work out. So
Yeah, we had quite a few discussions with them and spent quite a bit of time with both, Terry and Andy and the Puget Sound Energy representatives. And finally just came to the conclusion that based on their new rate structure, which they rolled out across the board, this was the better solution for our water treatment plant.
it's kind of like Comcast when your 2-year deal ends, and then all of a sudden it's just boom. But there's no other option. There's no other power company to
Mr.
shop
Miller?
like fiber,
Mr.
access
Fantini.
fiber.
I have a question. Was that increase from, when did it happen in 2025?
Boy, I want to say April or May when we got the.
Yeah, it was January, February, we got the first bill. We tried, we went back to them and asked them to prove their calculations. What they started doing was applying an annual minimum charge that was buried deep in the contract language to our current rate structure. And that was doubling our bill every month, if not making it be more than double. So we did work with them. They confirmed their calculations. It took a bit of time. And then we negotiated to go to this new rate structure and get a little bit of forgiveness on some of the previously incurred annual minimum maintenance charges.
Thank you.
And not to kick a dead horse, but yeah, what they did was, since we were a lot more efficient with our power, they were billing us for not using enough.
Yeah, it's quite the business. So the last page is the water system CFP, and that's the end of our presentation. If you have any questions about CFP, though.
So I know there's a lot of silence. There's a lot of shock but I would encourage council to ask some of those a lot of questions. I know I saw some folks taking notes, so please ask the questions. We'll get the CFP kind of cleaned up to make it a little bit clearer. And yeah, thank you very much. This is the start of a months long process, and appreciate the attention. But I am guessing the council, after 3.5 hours of meeting, that maybe we're going to keep putting that other agenda item on. that I know Ms. Schuer and Ms. Swetnam will be mad at me again for that one, but I'm thinking that the council procedures item 7F is not something council's interested in digging into tonight. Okay. With no objection to that and no further business before the council, I will adjourn tonight's meeting. Good night.